I want to explain to you guys why 2 years worth of preps are so important. Why is Efficient in the Field constantly preaching 2 years worth of preps? Pimps, there is a method to my madness, and I think it's worth explaining because if I explain it to you, it's going to be a lot easier for you to get on board if you're like kind of on the fence. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, is it worth it? Yes, it is. Why? Let's talk about it. As you guys know, this channel is about some kind of nationwide shit hit the fan scenario. We're not talking Hurricane Katrina or, that kind of stuff, some bad earthquake that trashes the California coast and the Bay Area and that kind of stuff. We are talking nationwide Uber SHTF. Let's say it's EMP. We're going to use that for this video. And we're going to talk about how it would affect everything because this is really going to make this 2-year thing make sense. We get EMP'd. That's the scenario. It could be us here in the States, you guys up there in Canada, those of you in Australia, wherever you are. Let's say it happens to you. Boom, the power grid goes down. What does that mean? What does that really mean? Well, it means no more refrigeration. It means that the gas pumps at the gas station don't work anymore. It means that your central air, that shit's over with. For a lot of us, it means no more water. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you're on city water, that shit's not going to run anymore. A lot of people just out running off a well. Their well is running on power. They're not cranking up a generator every time they need to, crank that baby up and freaking take a shower and shit. The huge majority of people aren't doing that. And those that are, guess what? Well, if the gas pumps aren't running anymore, it's going to make it a little difficult to make sure you got enough gas to keep your generator running. Life will completely change overnight. Now, it's going to take probably a large portion of the population, a bit of time to really digest this information. How much time? Well, one of a lot of the preppers give it a 72-hour time frame. And I don't think that's too far off, guys. I really think that that's probably fairly accurate. In some places, it might take a little less time. In other places, it might take a little bit more. If we want to look at what happened to Texas a few winters ago, when the windmills were freezing and shit and the power went down and people were freezing to death in their cars within days. And this is in a time and place when you can drive, 100 miles and there's still going to be gas pumps that are working. So you can put gas in your car and keep running it throughout the night so you don't freeze to death. But people were too stupid to do it. Oh, people didn't have all their canned food was frozen. Oh, what are we going to do? Holy shit, man. Turn your freaking patio into firewood. Turn your fence into firewood. Do whatever it's going to take. Like, let's think outside the box, people. And I'll tell you what, guys, I've been to Texas. I've spent enough time there to know that Texans are not super soft people. They're up towards the harder end of Americans. And a lot of them could not get this shit done, man. I was actually talking with this dude that lives in Texas who's a plumber. And he was talking about how a whole bunch of rich clients took off and went to Cancun to avoid the freezing temps. And guess what happened while they were gone? All the plumbing in their house burst. And when the water came back on, flooded their homes. They didn't even think about that shit. They didn't think about freaking draining all their pipes and doing whatever they could do. They just saw it coming in and bailed. And then got home and were like, what? This happens? Like, fucking clueless, man. Clueless, man. You know what I'm saying? Wow. Boy, are a lot of people going to be upset within 72 hours. And beyond power, it's like people don't even know how convenient shit paper and paper towels are. I'll tell you guys what, man. I have spent a lot of years living off grid. I have cleaned my hands with sand at the bank of rivers and wiped it on grass so many times, to take advantage of what nature has provided me to do the tasks that modern conveniences do. And a lot of people just have not wrapped their head around this, man. They are not thinking outside the box at all. Everyone's living in their little tiny, comfortable, modern cage. What happens when you let these people out of the cages and they become animals? It's going to be nuts. So in my perspective, the first year of shit hit the fan is going to be crazy. Not the whole year. I think the first 3 months are probably going to be pretty hardcore. And you know what? It's going to depend on where you live. But it's going to go downhill for a year. If we just look at the EMP Commission report, they say 90% of Americans are going to be dead in 12 months. Is it really 90%? Is that an accurate number? Let me ask you this. What percentage of Americans today can take care of themselves completely? Have all of their needs met without using the grid? I'll tell you what, it's not 10%. It's not 10%, man. And dudes, the government can hardly do anything right. Can we trust everything that the EMP Commission report came up with? Probably not, right? I think it's probably less than 5% of Americans that can actually provide everything for themselves. You know? So at the end of 12 months, we're probably looking at 5% of the population surviving. Maybe less than that. Well, at the end of that first year, in my opinion, I do think that things are going to begin to start to come back up for the next year. And I think at the end of the second year, by the end of the second year, we can expect to see some level of community in places that has, kind of started to heal itself, start new communities and people trading and that kind of stuff. Does that mean that everything is going to go back to normal in 2 years? Absolutely not. And I'll tell you why real quick, because we're talking about EMP. Did you guys know that just over 80% of the components required to build the U.S. power infrastructure are actually made in the U.S.? We don't even have the means stateside to repair our own power infrastructure. Almost 20% of the components are made by China, and we don't even make those components here. And once our power's gone down and our machines have gone down, oh boy, is it going to take us some time to recover. If we're the only nation that gets EMP'd in this whole disaster, oh boy. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Fasten your chin strap if that's the situation, man. It is going to be gnarly. Let's get back on track, though, guys. So things are recovering at the end of the second year. Where does that leave us? Things are not going to be back to normal. You're not going to be back to refrigeration and flipping on your lights and turning on your fan in your bathroom so you don't have to smell your own shit. Those days are over. It's gone. Maybe 10 years from now, maybe 10 years from shit hit the fan. We'll see it come back. So why does Efficient in the Field preach 2 years worth of preps instead of 10? Well, here's the reason, guys. For one, most people aren't going to jump on board with 10. For two, I'm going to share my own personal experience in my life that has made, I had these 2 years that were so big for me. Super, super big years. And that was the first 2 years of my off-grid living experience, homesteading. I learned more in those 2 years than my military experience, all my years as a survivalist, my years as a martial artist, executive protection, all that shit. 2 years living off-grid, homesteading. Man, the learning curve was like this all the time. All the time. It was nuts. So in the first 2 years of shit hit the fan for you, boy, are you going to learn a lot. And what it's going to do is it's going to teach you the things that you need to learn to make it beyond those first 2 years. Okay? Whether you want to learn them or not. That's the truth of it. That's been my experience. I know that's how it's going to go down. Unless you're just sitting in some underground shelter, reading spank mags, and eating through your freaking food. You're not really learning anything that way, are you? That's why I'm always encouraging you guys to get into things you haven't gotten your feet wet with yet. Get in there. Practice these new tasks. It's just going to make it even better for you. But You're going to learn so much in the first 2 years, man, if you make it through them. All right? That's why you need 2 years worth of preps, pimps, because it's going to set you up for all the years after that. Okay? That's it. I don't think the video needs to be really long. I hope it made sense. Guys, get on those preps, man. 2 years. Get on it. Okay? That's it, pimps. I'm done. Like it. Share it with someone who really needs to get their ass in gear and get their 2 years of prep squared away. Subscribe to the freaking channel. Check out my Patreon link in the description below. Consider supporting the channel. I got some big ideas that will blow YouTube up, but I got to get the funding there to make it happen. So please consider it if you like my content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.